Hi friends. Okay, so I just want to update you guys on a few things that have been going on. First, really quick, just to get it out of the way, just wanted to show you how my CO2 laser is doing. It almost looks like it's a little bit tan right now and still that kind of mask area. So I purposely wanted to do this right after I got out of the shower so I didn't have any makeup on and that you guys could just see what my skin looks like. And it's definitely looking better. Like, I'm not getting the weird looks anymore than I was. But when I'm not wearing some makeup, it you could still see, even when I have light makeup on, you can still see, like, looks like I got like a weird sunburn or something. And I'm trying to think. I'm almost 2 weeks since my procedure. I'll put the exact date. I think I'm on like 12 or something like that. And I'll put that in the description below. Okay, main point of my video is non-surgical permanent nose job. Okay, so my nose and I have been fighting like my whole life. I broke my nose a couple times when I was a kid. Not like bad enough to go to the doctor, but enough to where things inside were not happy. Mostly my septum. I had a pretty deviated septum, and so I had a lot of trouble breathing at night. Now, when I was an adult, I actually started going to the doctor and trying to figure out some ways to help with my breathing. And I did try those like nasal strips, which they worked great, except that for me, the adhesive was irritating. And so I would scratch them off at night. And so I'd fall asleep, breathing great, everything's golden. And then I ended up scratching my face a few times where like I woke up and there was like some scab, a little bit of blood or something, which not what you want. So then we started talking about some surgical options, and they recommended a septoplasty and turbinate reduction, which is where they remove some of the like soft tissue that's blocking, where like the septum, they're straightening it, other is some soft tissue. And again, I don't know like tons about biology, but that's how they had explained it to me. And as well, so I don't know which ancestor graced me with my nose, but I had kind of this bump shelf. It wasn't bad, but it definitely was something that I did get made fun of when I was in school, and so I was self-conscious about it. And again, like looking straight on, there wasn't an issue. It was mostly my side profile, and because of the insecurities I had, I'm like, well, if I'm going to do surgery anyway, they can do the rhinoplasty to make my nose look a little bit better. And the cost wasn't much more because my insurance was covering the septoplasty and turbinate reduction and the anesthesia. And so the extra fee that I paid on top for the rhinoplasty was fairly doable. And I think, this was like 10 plus years ago, but it was around $2,000 for my copay along with the rhinoplasty fee. And so anyways, again, that was years ago, over a decade ago, so those prices aren't going to mean much in today's world. Anyways, I loved the results. Anyways, I didn't have any kids at the time. Healing was a lot. I mean, I ended up taking probably like a week off of work. I looked like I had been in a bar fight. I had a cast over the bridge of my nose. I had swelling and bruising and all that stuff. And it was horrible to sleep. Like, it was a thing. But I loved the results so much. I could breathe so much better. And if you do get like a surgical procedure, it does take anywhere from 3 months to a year for the breathing part to really like kick in, because it's still so irritated from the surgery and it's healing. And so it was great. I absolutely loved it. Wonderful. Okay, so then fast forward, 10 years basically. It was 10 years when I had my revision septoplasty. So over time, I don't know why, but sometimes septoplasties can fail for whatever reason. And mine apparently had failed and reverted back to being very, very crooked. And so I had noticed I was having some breathing problems at night again. I thought maybe it was just my allergies. And so I was trying everything I could to really like hyper control my room, like washing my bed sheets all the time, which you should wash your bed sheets regularly anyway, but like being like hypersensitive, like the cat even jumped on it once, trying to wash them all again. And always like, you know, spritzing some like, not air freshener, but like linen spray that has like just like water, vinegar, and you know, just like stuff that like is supposed to help clean the air. Not, and like actually clean, not like air freshener, like type stuff that's actually not good for you. Anyways, trying to be very mindful of the space and my breathing and stuff, and humidifier or whatever I needed to try to breathe better. And I was talking to my allergist, and during his exam, so I was talking about seasonal allergies and allergy shocks. That's a whole other thing I could go into a video about. If you're interested, let me know. And he looked and said, you know, wow, your septum is very deviated, and that's probably why you're having these problems, because it was just like blocking off airflow. And so I loved the look of my nose though. Even though my septum inside, whatever was deviated, the outside was gorgeous. I loved it. And I was very hesitant to want to do another surgery because I've had to have multiple surgeries in my life. I had to have leg corrective surgery, which was a whole thing. And I should have a video on all this stuff. Anyways, I need to do more videos. And because one leg was shorter than the other, and I had to have a halo and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, hesitant to want to do surgery. We had just gone through wildfires here. And when I first met with him, we were living in an RV trying to rebuild. Again, another video. But he kept mentioning it, and then I ended up having to have a checkup, follow-up visit with a different allergist in the same office, just going over how my allergy regimen was going, because I switched from getting shots to drops, a sublingual concoction. And that allergist, you know, because he hadn't seen me before, again, did a look over. And he told me that, wow, your septum is very deviated. And I'm like, okay, now I've had like 2 doctors telling me that my septum's very deviated and that I should look into getting it fixed. And so it was at that point where I was like, okay, friends, I guess we can do this. So we ended up doing an outpatient surgery only to have it was only supposed to be for my deviated septum. And he's like, if I see anything else going on, I'll try to correct it. And he told me, I was very concerned about it changing the shape of my nose. And he told me that it would not change the shape of my nose. And the surgery I had, I was actually awake. I was not under general anesthesia. They did give me several medications to make me like really out of it, but it was weird because like I would like kind of fall asleep during it, but I would kind of wake up and they were like doing stuff. So like that was pretty freaky. And then at the end it started getting a little bit painful, and they're like, okay, if it's starting to hurt, we're just gonna close up. And again, it wasn't like super painful. I could just feel poking. Again, that probably sounds terrible, but that was my experience. And it's because it was so much cheaper to have it done that way. And honestly, like, it didn't feel all that much different. I mean, the weird factor is there, but it's not like it was painful or that I was terrified. I mean, I knew what I was getting into, and it was like, all right, let's just do this and get done with it. So it was all okay, but he told me after the fact that they ended up doing a little bit more of a turbinate reduction while they were in there, the septoplasty, and then a nasal fold or nasal repair. If I can, I'll have to Google what exactly it is and put it in the description. And they did that, and I had these like rubber splint things in there, and I had to keep them in there for a couple of weeks to try to keep my septum straight this time. And those things were very painful, and this was it felt much harder for recovery this time around because I had 4 kids. One of them, she was about 6 months old when I had the procedure, and having a 6-month-old baby and having this procedure done, it was a lot. But I mean, I survived, I got through it. But I noticed when I was doing the nasal rinse after surgery, they give you like, well, at least mine both times gave me like I think it's NeilMed sinus rinse bottle to be cleaning out my sinuses so I can breathe better and just cleaning the junk out of there. And the salt water, I guess, is supposed to be helpful for healing. But I noticed it wasn't working effectively like I've used it in the past, because I've also used it when I'm sick. And the pressure wasn't there. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is water like leaking out? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is super weird. And so I started kind of looking in the mirror and looking in my nose, like, what's going on? And there is a hole in my nose. A hole. Guys, like the size of like one of probably my pinky finger. It's a pretty big perforation. It's probably a little bit wider, but like, anyways, like something like that. Anyways, hole in my nose. Freaked me out. I called the allergist because when they removed the splints, they looked at everything and said it looked fine. And I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so we went back and they're like, yep, you preferred septum. We can try and go back there and fix it, or we could leave it. And I was at that point, I was so fed up with surgeries. And I was like, I just want to leave it. I just wanted it checked out because it's kind of freaky to have a hole or find a hole in your nose like that. And he said, oh yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then go on a few months later, and that allergist had ended up moving, the one that did my surgery. And I really liked him. He was such a super nice guy, and helped me out in other ways. But then I also noticed that my nose was no longer my nose. I could start seeing cartilage at the end of my nose, like sticking up. And my nose was now crooked. And because of the nasal flap repair thing, this side was now bigger than this side. So this side looked sunken in, and this side was bending in. And I was just feeling really devastated. I remember crying when I started to see the swelling going down and how my nose was going to look. And it felt horrible. I mean, the surgery was botched, and I don't know if it had anything to do with the doctor or just bad luck, because honestly, things can go wrong during surgery, and it's not necessarily anything with the doctor. It could just be how our bodies are healing or whatever's happening. So I don't blame the doctor for it. I think I was mad with him for a while because I felt like, him and, his partner in the office had talked me into this, and I paid money for it, and then ended up with a hole in my nose. But again, just trying to move on from that. And so that happened 2.5 years ago. And I had been unhappy with the appearance of my nose since then. And sometimes it has like a whistling sound from the hole in it. I breathe great, but like there was just some things I wasn't happy about. And I ended up calling a couple of surgeons and talking on the phone and just like asking them about a revision surgery, like another surgery. And I was just not having good feelings about it. Was not having good feelings about touching my nose again. And because of the necrosis I had before that led to the perforated septum or hole in my nose, hole in my septum, I just felt like, okay, if we try to do this again, will I have a major die-off or more die-off and have it even worse? So that's kind of where I decided I'm not doing more surgeries. I'm going to look in to see if there's other options, even if it's just makeup, you know, because makeup can do a lot of good. And I ended up finding out about non-surgical rhinoplasties. And there are a lot of doctors that do temporary non-surgical rhinoplasties. And I even talked to a local one that does it. And I've gone to their office many times before. They are absolutely wonderful there. And I've had other things done, like my Botox, and they've always been great. However, after talking with the doctor and talking about possible things that can happen during a non-surgical nose job, the temporary ones, there is a risk of the fluid that they inject blocking blood flow and causing blindness or causing necrosis of the nose. And it's very rare for that to happen, and they've never had it happen in their office. However, I again did my own research and found that people who have had a nose job are not great candidates for this because the veins or like the blood supply can get shifted a bit when there's a surgery. And I have had the rhinoplasty, septoplasty, but then the septoplasty twice. So I've had my nose messed with. And so even though I had put down a deposit, had scheduled the procedure after I did more research about it, I decided I didn't want to risk it because I'm like, you know, that would be just my luck, right? That I would get this procedure done and then something would go wrong. My husband says I'm like the 1%. And like, I'm not great, or like the 2%. If there's a 2% chance that there's going to be a reaction to a medication or something, probably I'm going to be the weird one that gets that weird reaction. Or if there's a 2% chance of sometimes really good things happening, like graduating with my master's, top 3 in my class, I graduated just below the 2 valedictorians that tied valedictorian, with 5 kids. So whoop whoop. Anyways. For better or for worse, he jokes that I'm like the 2%. And I was not feeling great about it. And so I canceled that. And I was kind of thinking, well, you know, this just might be how my nose is and to just move on with life. Then though, as I was doing research, I came across permanent non-surgical rhinoplasty. So permanent, they use a silicone micro droplets that, because of the size of the micro droplets, they can't block blood supply like a non-permanent, non-surgical nose job. And that was very appealing to me, that this type of procedure that I had done does not block the blood supply, which was very important to me because I don't want to have like parts of my nose die off or like go blind. That would be really, really horrible. So, and the other thing is that the price for a permanent non-surgical nose job, because once that's in there, once the micro droplets are there, they're there forever. They're gonna stay there. It's not something that eventually goes away and you have to have refilled, which to me, as far as even with money, it's great because you're paying for it once and it's about the same price as the temporary version. And also, the procedure wasn't super painful because they numbed me up. I'll go through step by step what the procedure was like in a minute here. But it's not something that I would want to have done every like 9 months or once a year. That just doesn't sound great. Okay, this video is getting super long, so I'm going to make a part 2, so that way you guys aren't just sitting here forever. But that is just a short update on my CO2 laser, and then the story into why and how I got to the point of deciding to get a non-surgical permanent septoplasty. And my next video, which will be right after this one, will be part 2, and it will be where I went, what my experience was like, how healing has been, before and after photos of right before the procedure, right after, all that good stuff. So see you in just a few minutes, and talk to you soon.